Hi Maciej, thank you for sending in your next tasks. So this flow chart, I love the flow charts, I think they're really pretty. And your next essay, and many apologies for the quality of the recording yesterday. I wanted to get it back to you, but obviously it was unprofessional to do it in that cafe, and it was very noisy, as you say. I hope you managed to understand enough of it. But yeah, back in the UK now. Okay, so here we go. Flow chart on tea production. Yes, now you've answered this really, really well. You've managed to. The problem is always where to start, isn't it? But you've sort of collected the information very nicely, and you've picked out, this one, which is the more simple one, and you've then explained the complicated ones, and then here the summary. Yeah, so your layout is excellent. This is a really, really good, very, very well done. So the graph shows the process of tea production. Overall, the production of different kinds of teas comprise. No, it's not compromise, you say comprise. So compromise is when you're you don't want to do what somebody else wants you to do. So this is comprise. So comprises from 3 to 6 steps. So these teas are made of fresh leaves, which are sorted and cleaned at the beginning. So it's a lovely chance to use the passive tense, isn't it, all the way through. Preparation of white teas is shortest because the sorted and cleaned leaves are only steamed and then subsequently dried. You would have to put subsequently in here, not after there. The longest process is necessary to obtain oolong teas. I've just slightly changed that around, and I would suggest maybe oolong tea necessitates the longest production. So we're changing process. We're just sort of slightly moving that. I think it's a bit cleaner. So making that into a verb necessitates the longest production, which includes, then you can carry on to bruise the leaf edges. Yeah. Short fermentation, respectively. Yes, good. So you're telling me all the processes, which is really, really nicely done. Well done. In comparison, the process of black tea production contains, or you need something now instead of has, includes rolling into strips or cutting into broken black instead of shaking or rolling, and there's no pan frying. Yeah. Green tea starts with withering of sorted clean leaves, but later they're pan fried, rolled or shaped. Yes. Shaped, or directly dried with jasmine, with the addition of jasmine, I would say, in there. Yes. Here. Yeah, we did that bit. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, I just written a note in my book and I wasn't sure. Yep, so that's fine there. Okay. Every type of the above teas, plural, can be used for the production of scented tea, can eventually be used, or can additionally, can ultimately be used for the production of scented tea, I would say. Instead of eventually, I'd use ultimately. I think that's better. To achieve this, the teas are dried, scented with flowers or fruits, and cooled, and finally cooled. So position of adverbs is coming up a bit, because you're wanting to put your adverbs right at the end. I wouldn't always put them right at the end. I think sometimes they're better coming in before that final verb, which would work better there and there as well. Okay, but overall this is really, really good. It's extremely clear. It makes it very easy to read. You've picked out the right information. You've done it with the right words. Yes, very, very good. Lovely. Okay, so this essay, really interesting. Yes, pushing companies to move from large cities to regional locations. So benefits and drawbacks, reasons for your answer, and any examples. So you've made some very good examples here. I don't know what you study, but you're very comfortable, I think, writing these complicated essays. It doesn't seem to scare you at all. And you always have some really interesting things to say. So well done. So many officials, here we go, representing cities under the pressure of local organisations argue that business should choose peripheral locations and leave the city centre for citizens. Now, great opening sentence. Now, a few places you've repeated citizens, and so I'm going to suggest maybe you could be using also words like residents, population, what I mean is that people, inhabitants, something like that, instead of always using citizens. Or you could even say, if you wanted to, for families, as opposed to making the contrast of for businesses. This issue, or the issue, has been debated by both sides since the advent of the Industrial Revolution. And you need capital I, capital R, because this is a point in history. This essay will discuss the points and present examples from the whole. Yeah, good. So, lovely introduction. Well done. The obvious advantage of, the placement of factories, you'd have to say, or you would have to turn it around and say factory and office placement in the suburbs, is more space and now you want to say that buildings are freed up, and the freeing up of, or the liberation of buildings for citizens in the city centre, or for city centre residents. The main reason behind this is the fact that properties are cheaper and better adjusted for living. Yeah, also I would make the fact that they're very easy to put up. They're certainly in the UK, there's less planning restrictions. So are cheaper to build, maybe we would say, cheaper to build and rent, maybe subject to less building regulation, and better adjusted for living. Now, we're not really talking about living. Oh, hang on a minute. Okay, sorry, I see where you're going. You're arguing that in the town is cheaper. Okay, in the UK the town is always more expensive, and it's cheaper out of the town. So, but I see where you're going. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's make this clear then. The main reason behind this is the fact that properties in the city centre would then be cheaper and better adjusted for living, and would be cheaper. Okay, for example, and then this is your argument. I see where you are. A study by Oxford University showed that after limitation of office building, after restricting offices to suburban areas, the development of flats dropped by 30% in 10 European cities. Okay, therefore, not only can pushing companies, I wouldn't use pushing, it's a bit informal, I would say relocating companies outside the city, the inner city, make more space for locals, but it can also lower the price of flats. Yes, okay. We could say apartments instead of repeating flats. Okay, sorry, I get your argument. I had misunderstood, but yeah, you're fine on that. So you're saying if you move them outside, it's cheaper for the people who live in the city. On the other hand, there's some disadvantages of limiting the number of offices in the city centre. In particular, disadvantages in limiting, I would put there. Okay. In particular, some international companies searching for a prestigious place would prefer, to settle in an environment without such curbs. A very good example. Maybe you could just point to the fact that, a city location is extremely important for their business. I mean, you've said they prefer it, but why? They want to make it easier for people to get to them, easier access. Yes, it suits their business model, doesn't it? For example, then you go into your Harvard survey. International firms consider prestige, and central location. Maybe we should emphasise that as an important factor when they choose their office. If city governments limited companies too much instead of so much, they may decide to, it's not really building though, is it? They may decide to relocate in an alternative city. Okay? So to conclude, I firmly believe that the limitation of the number of company buildings, we're trying to avoid limitation, so let's say restricting the number of company buildings in the city centre is beneficial for its citizens, as it will improve the quality of their life, as it restores the inner city to shops and schools, or gives more space for schools, something like that. However, it should be noted that this could negatively influence the city revenue and rental income, something like that. Okay, so there's lots of really, really good stuff here. I only, as always, just picking up little tiny things, but these are really, really good essays, and I don't think the examiner would be picking as much as I am doing at the moment. Your task achievement, tick, done it. Your coherence, very good. I misunderstood that paragraph, but I get where you're going. It's just it's very different here. In a lot of European cities, the inner city is very expensive and it gets cheaper as you go out. But you make your point and I understand it. Yes, I also like this point about the prestige, very good here. And your conclusion, you could just add a little bit more here. Revenue and rental income. So really good stuff. Keep on going. It's lovely. Well done.